Ooh. Yeah, we're gonna be done with this in an hour. Just be done, cause it's just. Ooh. Hey y'all, how are you doing? I'm great. Thank you so much for asking. It's me, Kim, and I'm back for another video. Girl, the devil is a liar. The devil is so busy. Well, number one, y'all know I am not afraid to start over at all whatsoever. We're gonna get it right. Okay. Also, not my countdown timer freezing. Like, what is going on? I don't know. Let me get in the middle of the frame. Anyways, um, today we are going to talk about some thoughts that have been swirling around in my mind for a minute about why so many young women, I mean, women under 25, are decrying the move towards sexual liberation that's taken place over the last quarter of a century, 25 to 30 years. I have lots of thoughts on why that's happening and maybe some more nuance that we can add to the conversation about how the current framework around what it means to be a liberated woman and to be proud of your sexuality, how we can complicate it, add some more nuance to it. But before we get into that, this video is always sponsored by me, the merch shop KNF. We are going to be sunsetting the Valentine's Day merch at the end of this month. Valentine's Day was yesterday, but we're still selling it because Black girls always deserve love. The most popular item is the Black Girls Deserve Love Story sweatshirt, which I am not wearing today for some reason. Well, I wanted to wear this. This is the pink version of the light pink version of the Black Women Aren't Here to Save You. We have literally the water bottle, the Black Girls Deserve water bottle. So cute. You can still order the physical version. You can still order the physical version of the coloring book. Literally, I adorable. I could not be happier with how all of this stuff turned out. Literally, and of course, the sticker sheets, which are, the Candy Hearts Black Girls Deserve Love sticker sheets. I had a little like Valentine's Day party for my family over the weekend, and my niece like beelined straight to the sticker sheet. Like, can I have that? And I was like, unfortunately, no. I only have one copy, but don't worry. I ordered her one for herself. I hope you guys had a great Valentine's Day yesterday. I understand that some people don't want to participate, and the hallmarkification, the Disneyfication, the over commercialization of romantic love. But I really decided to make it a point to celebrate all kinds of love: platonic, familial, romantic love. I had a really, really great last 4 or 5 days. I'm so full, I'm so happy, and I'm really, really grateful. So I hope y'all are feeling the same. And if not, truly, you know what? Oh, I hate to start this off with a sermon, but I can't help myself. Okay. I had a horrible Valentine's Day last year. Horrible. I was in a horrible relationship. My boyfriend at the time was just going out of his way to just be shitty, truly. And I just remember thinking like, oh, I'm never going to do this again. Like, I'm never going to have a day like this again. Holidays do mean a lot to me. And the fact that after having that kind of Valentine's Day last year, now I did see Casey Musgraves last year. Anybody who's seen pictures of my apartment knows that I'm a big Casey fan. But I said last year, after having that horrible Valentine's Day where I was at the Casey Musgraves concert by myself crying to Space Cowboy, that I was never going to have that ever again. And this year was just 180. And so, hold on, it was a 180 not only because I, have a great partner who went out of his way to make it a 180, but also because I decided to invest myself into reaching out to women I love, people I love, doing things that I love, which is gathering Black women. We had a great Valentine's Day event. Shout out to everybody in Dallas who came. Love y'all, appreciate y'all, right? So it's like, we can make these commercialized holidays. It's what you make of it, you know what I mean? Like, you can turn it into something deeper and more meaningful, right? It's not just about showing off the all of the crap that your boyfriend or boo or partner or whatever, your spouse got you. It can be about just genuinely celebrating the fact that loving and being loved is an incredible gift. And wherever you get that from, be grateful. Yeah. Oh, I'm a crybaby. I'm not gonna like start crying right now, but I'll probably talk about this more behind the paywall because it was great. I had a great time. I had a great weekend. All right. All right. We're gonna go to a couple comments before we dive into it. I'm glad Kim had a good V day. I did. If you want to know what I did on Valentine's Day, if you want to be nosy, you can go on over to my Instagram or my Twitter. There's stuff both there. I've never been in a relationship on Valentine's Day, and I'm okay with that. I just can't with Valentine's Day. You know what? Truly, I just wanted the experience so much. Like I just wanted the experience of having that. And now that I've had it, I'm good. I don't have to, well, I don't want to lie. I don't want to lie. But now that I've had the experience of being in a great relationship on Valentine's Day, having my partner just making it incredible, I'm okay. You know what I mean? We don't have to go that hard ever again. I got the thing, I'm good, but I am going to continue, the tradition of bringing my family together for Valentine's Day and maybe doing, events for women around Valentine's Day, maybe. Where can we find the link to buy merch? It should be in the description bar. Let me just check real quick to see if it's there. The link down below. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Let me edit. I can add it real fast. The merch link. Talk amongst yourselves. Tell me in the comments, what did you do for Valentine's Day? Did you celebrate love? And by the way, not just romantic love. Um, had a really good steak. Went to a really good restaurant in Dallas. Did a little cocktail making class before that. Got to dress up. My favorite things: red meat, alcohol, looking cute. Okay. And are we done? We're going to save this. And, ooh, actually, I can add, let's add it. The Valentine's Day merch. Cool. Are we good? Okay. We're done. So, anyways, the link to the merch is now down below. It's also going to be tagged in this video. Are we ready to start? Are we ready to start? One more comment. It might not be as busy on paid. What? Not to be rude, but I don't like Galentine's Day. If I'm not in a relationship, I don't celebrate. I think that that's your prerogative. And Galentine's Day was literally like a tongue-in-cheek, like little funny thing that started on Parks and Rec, with like Amy Poehler's like, and then we've just all co-opted it. And I just think it's really important. I think as more and more women are saying, I'm just not going to put up with any old thing just to say that I'm in a relationship, that women are looking for outlets and opportunities to say, if I'm going to choose to decenter romance that isn't a 10 out of 10, then I want to recenter my relationships with women. And I think that that's really, really valuable. I think it is so easy if you are unpartnered, especially around these, again, over commercialized holidays, to feel the loneliness or quote unquote failure super acutely. And it's fun for me to be able to bring people together and be like, your ability to maintain connection and community and sisterhood with women is just as important as your ability to maintain connection and intimate relationship with a romantic partner. That's just how I approach it, but I get it, right? I get it. It's all money, it's all money at the end of the day. Are we ready? Let's go. Let's go. Okay, let's get into the conversation and let's start with a tweet. All right, this is from a Twitter user. She said, and this is from March 16th, 2022. She said, Gen Z and younger millennials grew up in an era where porn was easily accessible, and mainstream feminists at the time pushed nudity and sexuality as a form of liberation. The constant, unfiltered exposure to sexuality from a young age can cause a regression to social conservatism. That was in response to somebody asking, whoa, what's going on? Why are the girls getting so conservative and talking about modesty and all that? I think that that is spot on. I think that there are a number of reasons why young people and, people my age are embracing more quote unquote socially conservative ideals, kind of repeating baby like Phyllis Schlafly talking points. What was that series on Hulu that had Kate Blanchett in it, which was about the women's rights movement? It was called, I think it had America in the title of it. And I remember Ama Asante directed an episode, and I did an interview with Ama Asante about her Shirley Chisholm. Y'all say it in the comments. What was it? It was good, right? But basically, that was about the fight for the Equal Rights Amendment that took place in the early 70s into the 80s. And ultimately, the Equal Rights Amendment was not passed. But as the feminist movement, the second wave feminist movement was gaining momentum, there's always been some pushback, right? So what we are always going to see with regard to any quote unquote social progress movement, whether it is gay and LGBTQ rights, whether it is women's rights, whether it is racial injustice, as there is progress, there's going to be negative progress. What did Ibram Kendi call it, right? There's progress, and then there's, ooh, my references aren't good today, but y'all read the books, y'all watch the TV. Anyways, we're always going to have resistance. And right now we are in a moment of resistance to the progression that has happened over the past 30 or 40 years with regards to women's rights and really the ability of women to show up how we want to in public. And yes, it is political. Yes, it is economic. But what this tweet gets at is that it is cultural. And as a cultural critic, I think I'm in a pretty good spot to neatly dissect the cultural reasons why we are in kind of I don't know, it's almost a neoconservative era with regard to how women desire to show up in the world and how women desire to be in connection to men. All right. Let's first watch some videos, and I'm going to play two videos by two women who are right around my age. We're going to watch videos by Brittany Renner, clips, and another one from Mandii of Horrible Decisions. And both of these are 30-something women who got a pretty sizable following being, quote, sexually free, being very open about who they're having sex with, how they have sex, showing up, unclothed on social media. And now that they're a little bit older, they've had a change of heart. Let's first start with Brittany Renner.
But I will say to 20-year-olds, and even to my 20-year-old self, I hate how I allowed myself to just be like used up by men. And that came from a lack of self-worth. I did not understand my value that I was born with. I didn't. And I gave, again, people look at sex differently, but sex is spiritual unification. At the end of the day, I don't care how you spin it. It's spiritual.
For women.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah,
for
women,
whatever.
yeah.
Okay, fine. For women, it's spiritual unification. And people that I shared my body with, when I think about my list, it's repulsive because they didn't deserve it. But that was an outcome of me discounting my worth. And it's disgusting. I hate even having that spiritual tie in any type of way. But yeah, I would absolutely change sexually how I move around. And not even necessarily because of like the societal outcome. It's more so from my self-worth.
Like, how it makes you like feel.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good knowing that you gave a sacred part of you to a man that looked at sex with you as taking a piss. It's not fulfilling. It's disgusting to think about. And I feel like I've beat myself up every single day for my decisions. And what people say about me online holds no candle to what I've told myself on a daily basis. Like I've been called worse by better, and that better be me. Like I have talked down to myself, and I felt like I was unworthy for a very long time. And I would say this is more of a recent awareness, like in the past year, where I'm like, Brittany, you were always enough. Like you never had to seek validation outside of you. You never had to look that far. And that's what I would tell myself. I would and try to tell women, you should really think about who you're laying down with. Like, and that is a more traditional view, but it's like sex is not even worth it if they don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you. They have no desire to. They don't want to know your favorite color. They don't give a shit. So why do you want them over top of you? Again, that's come from feeling used up, and sometimes that's why the used goods comments they sting. Because you know what? There are times I felt like that. I feel like the new toy that now is unexciting and put away in a box. So I just have to accept what I've done and move forward with this awareness and just know that, okay, the guy that most likely, that I'm not looking for a husband, I'm looking for my husband, and there's a difference. That guy is going to be a very small percentage, and I'm okay with that. I'm at peace, and I'm at peace with the things I've done. But I will say, moving forward, like talking to any girl, to you, and, you know, whoever's listening, like you really should think about why you're doing what you're doing. Really think about, why am I attracting that? What part of me is resonating with a guy like that? If you have all these complaints about him, what's resonating with him? Really analyzing what you're doing. That's what I would suggest.
You know, there are parts of that aren't horrible advice. Look, the idea that you should really think about who you're having sex with, good advice, you know what I mean? But in that good advice, she has wrapped it up in the manosphere ideology of even her saying the value I was born with, right? Like that's a big manosphere idea that women are born inherently valuable, meaning our vaginas, our hymens, and men have to earn their value. Okay. And other stuff about I have to take accountability and, you know, what did I do? And like, okay, I mean, I think that there is room for self-reflection without it being so self-flagellating. That's my primary issue with that. That was 31-year-old Brittany Renner. So Brittany has been going from podcast to podcast to podcast, apologizing for being a quote-unquote hoe in her 20s. So what happened with Brittany, for a long time, she was a social media it girl, and she still has millions of followers, known for her, you know, very athletic physique. And then, of course, we get the necessary, you know, booty to the camera pictures, a whole bunch of booty to the camera pictures from Brittany. Okay, girl, do what you want. And she, at one point, was been linked to Little Uzi and was linked to Colin Kaepernick. And then she wrote a whole book about her exploits, a la Confessions of a Video Vixen, except for Elizabeth Ovison, icon. Brittany could never, okay? Elizabeth, formerly known as Corinne, iconic. Not Brittany, but that was definitely the mold for her. And then a few years ago, Brittany hooked up with PJ Washington, who is now a professional basketball player. They got together. They had a baby together. He cheated on her that broke apart. And then he proceeded to drag her all over social media and really join in on the pylon of shaming her for getting into this relationship. Now what's happening? Getting in, girl. Okay. What's going on? That he proceeded to drag her for getting into the relationship and kind of shaming her. And of course, she has been made out to be kind of a predator because she got with PJ not while he was underage, not while he was in high school, okay, as y'all are trying to say, but when he was in college. Is it weird? Yes. But let's, drag her over the facts and not over the weird kind of sensational misrepresentation of her misdeeds. Let's be honest. Okay. So that was that, right? Now she's telling women what they need to do to find a man, and how we need to be docile and feminine and fit and friendly. And if we're not all of those things, then we're never going to get a man. I haven't been on Brittany's Instagram lately. Does Brittany have a man? Does Brittany have a man? I don't know. Y'all let me know. Did she debut her man? I don't know. I'm just saying. Okay? Okay? I don't want any wealth building advice from broke people, and I do not think that you should take relationship advice from people who aren't in happy, healthy relationships, but that is just me. It's all bullshit anyway. Okay, next, let's go to Mandii, co-host of Horrible Decisions.
Where I would be on my pod and I was loving having these trick ass niggas and fucking for this money and that money and ooh, this nigga bought this. In terms of where I've gone with therapy, I realized how little I valued myself, how little I asked of anyone in my life. And so where I am today, I wouldn't promote that. And so in this blurred line of sexual liberation, and I'm air quoting it, I had full autonomy of what I was doing, and I agreed to do those things.
Yeah.
So luckily, I don't feel that I was violated. However, I had
That could still not be right.
I had a skewed view of really what my value was as a woman. And even now, having been in a relationship, this is my first relationship in my life. I'm 32 years old.
Okay.
So the idea too that my value to myself was attached to my sex.
Mm-hmm.
My value was attached to being able to even disconnect emotionally to men. Now in my 30s, I'm like, well, I don't think I promote that because
Okay, so Mandii has been hosting the Horrible Decisions podcast with Weezy, whom I love. I'm obsessed with Weezy since 2016. And their shtick, the reason why people are drawn to them is because they are so unfiltered, so raw about their sexualities. They are freaky. They do it all. They have seen it all. They are fucking all like all over the place. And yeah, like people are drawn to that honesty. People are drawn to that kind of vulnerability. I also think people are drawn to spectacle. I think that as much as I enjoy the Horrible Decisions podcast, another reason why some people are drawn to it is because it makes people feel good to like see women, quote unquote, I don't know, embarrassing themselves. And I don't think that they necessarily have anything to be ashamed of. But I think that with a lot of the sex podcasts, there is something about people judging. Yeah, people like to judge the women. And of course, I do this for a living, so I get it don't matter why people come, right? It don't matter if you love me, hate me, want to see me embarrass myself. Money is money. The views are views. But as you get older, you recognize that like, oh, maybe sharing certain parts and saying certain things and doing certain things and promoting certain things is not only not in my best interest, but it's not in the best interest of my audience. And I think it's actually really great for both Brittany and Mandii to be able to honestly reflect on those things, right? Okay. let's get into it. I feel like I'm about to get in my Auntie Kim bag. You know what I mean? Like, I am about to turn 34 in a month. I am not particularly conservative with regard to the kinds of sexual mores that I endorse. But I do think that we've made some missteps in our conversations about what sex is and what sex means. And so I am going to be speaking as somebody who has, amassed 3 decades of life, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that I am so much smarter than an 18-year-old. It just means that one of the greatest gifts of getting older is you have the ability to be self-critical and to be reflective. And it is a gift and a privilege to be able to share those epiphanies, to share that knowledge that I've gleaned with y'all. And it's also fun. Okay. So I do think I understand where this ideological embrace of both chastity and sexlessness is coming from. And it's because the girls are tired. The girls are tired. And you know what? I 100% predicted this. Before we get into that, I want to go to some comments. All generations had many women that were very sexual liberated, then turned to righteousness at 35, 40. It will continue. Oh, I know. The hard thing about talking about this and doing it live is I know that I am attracting like the lonely, like lowly, just errant remnant manosphere men, and I'm gonna keep getting comments like that, but we're gonna push through it, you guys. I don't even really want to get into that. If you want to have a bunch of sex, great. If you want to not have sex and you don't, that's liberating as well. But even if you're older, if you have sex, you might fall on a pickle you regret one day. 100%. I used to love the Horrible Decisions podcast post COVID, but got tired of hearing about people's sex lives. I mean, it is a sex podcast. So, okay. You know what I mean? Like, they're not misrepresenting themselves. Alexa, I think that they just wanted to be desired and thought that's what guys like. That's not liberation. Thank you. And finally, Louisa, before we move on. I'm tired, but my sexual liberation now looks like no sex at the moment, but hopeful future. All right. Now, as I mentioned before, I've been trying to tell the girls for a minute that this thing is not the right thing. I love when I get to cite myself. All right. So I have pulled up this screenshot of an article that I wrote for the For Harriet website, which again, I keep saying we're going to revamp, we're going to relaunch 100%. We're going to relaunch this year. In 2017, I wrote this article for the website called What Does Sexual Liberation Look Like? The header image is an image of Amber Rose. And in that essay, I said what I've been saying for years. And the central question is, what does it mean that the images we create to fight patriarchy look exactly like the images patriarchy produces? This year, in 2023 and beyond, I'm going to say it's not just about the images that we produce. It's also about the behaviors that we engage in, the choices that we make. The ideals of sexual liberation that are most often promulgated in pop culture are insufficient. The idea that you demonstrate your sexual liberation via these overt, cliched displays of sexuality, via wearing as little as possible, via bragging about your sexual exploits, it doesn't quite get us there. And if you truly love fucking and love being naked, good on you. You know what I mean? Like, this is not like a focus on the family, you know what I mean? Like, shaming women session at all. But I think for young women, endorsing the shallowest, most vapid form of sexual liberation via how we adorn our bodies and how many niggas we get in bed with, it is so dangerous. And I've said that a few times, and people have been really critical of me, right? People have negatively said that my view about sexual liberation and sex positivity is very Hooksian, right? As in a la Bell Hooks. But of course, we know I am a devotee of Bell Hooks. I am a devoted student, a dedicated student of Bell Hooks. And yes, she definitely has influenced the way that I approach this. But also, I have come to this conclusion by looking around. By looking around and saying, it don't feel like you're having fun. I know you're engaging in this stuff and you're telling us it's such a great time, but it doesn't look like you're having a great time. And that concerns me as like a real feminist. A feminist who does not believe that feminism is whatever you want it to be. Oh, that's the other thing that keeps coming up. On the other channel, I did that quickie little one-off reaction video to Brittany sitting in her car talking about how we all need to be in the gym 3 times a week to get a man. And somebody said, oh, and I also talked about, the city girls, right, and Cardi B, them talking about how I'm going to fight over my man and, whatever. And I'm like, oh, my God, like, what's going on? Like, no. And I critique that stuff because I think that it is so accessible. And because it's so accessible, it's easy for people who are new to the feminist space, who are looking for ways to feel good, to glom onto it. But it's a dead end. And people will respond, well, you just sound like an old lady. Feminism is just what women want it to be. And I thought feminism was about choice. And I'm like, no. Okay. So as somebody who did not come to feminism via pop culture, or even if pop culture helped me to develop proto-feminist ideals, after I developed those proto-feminist ideals, right, that introduction, I have really dedicated myself into going deep about the political roots and aims of feminism. And if we're really serious about feminism as a political project, we have to understand that no, it's not women doing whatever they want. No. Because I believe Candace Owens is doing whatever she wants. I believe Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing whatever she wants. But would I describe those actions as feminist because they feel free and happy and liberated doing whatever they want? No. I think Amy Coney Barrett is doing exactly what she wants in helping to facilitate the reversal of Roe versus Wade. But is that a feminist action because she as a woman feels good about it? No. And so I'm not going to get on mad. We have to do our reading high horse. I understand. But we need to be engaging with feminist ideals beyond pop culture and beyond tweets, beyond TikToks, beyond, well, y'all ain't on Tumblr anymore, but back in my day, beyond the Tumblr reposts, beyond the Tumblr, right? We need to be really, if we're committed to feminism, right, as an ideal, as an ideology, we need to be thinking about our political aims, which are to facilitate the social, political, economic liberation of women. And if the thing that we're talking about does not help get us to the social, political, economic liberation of women, it's not feminism. It might be fun. It might be a great time. I do a lot of stuff. I'm like, ooh, this is problematic. But I'm not on here being like, every single thing I do is feminist, because it ain't. It ain't. It's not. Okay. And so I think what's really gotten us fucked up over the last 20 years, and I say this over and over again, in fact, Let me for real quote myself here. Let's go back to For Harriet classic called WAP and the Spectacle of Sexual Liberation, where I am going to quote myself. Here we go. I think so many feminist women are afraid to break things when it comes to this realm. But fundamentally, feminism is about breaking things, creating anew, reimagining, rebuilding. We have all this energy for fueling our radical imaginations, for defunding and abolishing and rebuilding, right? But we don't have that same radical imagination when it comes to our sexualities. A lot of women think sexual liberation is the ability to be desired by men on the terms that men set. Now, it don't make no sense. Like, I don't know what y'all are trying to sell us, but I completely disagree. Yeah, that's me. The idea that we are just regurgitating exactly what we've been given and saying, oh, this is a new thing now. Okay, that's a start. It's a start. Okay. I love comments. Let's go to some comments. Yeah, sitting on the floor. That's a throwback. Oh, my favorite compliment. Even when I don't agree, the work is solid. Thank you. This reminds me of the way OnlyFans girls drown out the voices of women who are forced into sex work and are anti-sex trade. Talked about that in the WAP video. I would really like some more understanding on how social conservatism does not play into patriarchy. I don't believe that I have made that argument. When sexuality is divorced from politics, status, or access to resources, we can approach liberation. Not y'all getting ahead of me. Oh, this is why I love this job. I have the smartest viewers. Oh, did y'all read the outline? All right. Yeah, you exactly got where I was going. Okay. So, endorsing shallow sex positivity in a sexist world encourages women and femmes to regurgitate the stupidest, silliest, soulless, most cliched expressions of feminine sexual power. Because most of us are still warring with our, internalized misogyny, right? Like, even at my big age, I often have to check myself and be like, oh, what was that? Right? And I've read the books, I spend a lot of time in community with feminist women, and I still am like, oh, the patriarchy, right? Cropping up, okay? Because we're still navigating a world that has not caught up to the feminist ideals that so many feminist women have been trying to distribute and share and normalize over the past 30 or 40 years. And because a lot of us, those of us who, desire to have sexual interactions, romantic interactions with men, because we are still engaging with men who, even if they are quote unquote progressive, they still overwhelmingly have a desire to hold on to the little shards, shreds, remnants of patriarchy that they can. It is leaving us vulnerable. Yeah. So when we take on this ideal of the most overt, easiest, again, like, not interesting, boring, right? Displays of sexual power, what we actually get in our current world is a scenario in which men get to retain all of their actual power, and women and femmes, we get to feel powerful, but only for a short period of time. Right? That's the problem with the focus on quote unquote representation. We see this with regard to feminism, but we see it with regard to a lot of other stuff too, right? representation matters. Images, of course, matter. I know images are important. But like, that stuff only gets us so far. We can't actually get to sexual liberation without actual power. And we're not there. No matter what the misogynists are trying to say, right? This idea that we currently live in a world that caters to the desires of women, no, we're not there. All right. So what I get from Brittany and Mandii is they thought that having a lot of sex and being desired, being sexy was going to get them one thing, and it got them something else. The wages were not what they were expecting. And look, a lot of women, right, as we get older, with regard to a variety of things, learn, ooh, I thought it was going to be this and it's not that. Wait, let me change course. That is, as I mentioned earlier, the value of maturation, the knowledge, wisdom. We should value that. We should appreciate it, not shame it. And this is the other thing that really pisses me off, right? The inherent ageism of a lot of these conversations with regard to sex and sexuality and women and why so many women don't want to have honest conversations about, ooh, I wish I hadn't have done that. I made the wrong choice, is because those admissions of regret are so often weaponized against us. It is so frustrating that we can embrace the ideal, men just need to grow up. They need to find themselves. They need to sow their wild oats. They need to get their shit together. They're growing, they're building, they're working. But women aren't allowed to grow up. Women aren't allowed to evolve. Women aren't allowed to mature. That the decisions that you make in girlhood are supposed to be your decisions. You have to live with that for the rest of your life and you can never have or do better ever. It's a mixture of, when it comes to Black women, racialized misogyny, aka misogynoir. But there's also something in there about the logics of carcerality that, living in the West and living in the United States in particular, that we've internalized. That it's like, once you make a mistake, you have signed up for suffering forever. Nope. I reject it. Nope. Like that. All right. Let's move on. Okay. So, no, it does not feel good to look back and say, oh, I didn't have to make that mistake. I did. I believed a thing. It took me down the wrong path. But, c'est la vie. It's life. Okay. But we see younger women now more and more saying, ooh, that, I don't want to be that. It don't look fun. I don't want to, quote unquote, waste my youth. It's too much work. And I still can't trust these niggas, right? And turning away from it. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that is completely understandable. But the reason why I'm currently concerned about this turn toward neoconservatism is because we are going from one end of the spectrum all the way to the other. Instead of saying, okay, we need to refine some of these ideas, you know what I mean? We need to interrogate some of the nuances, right? The complexities of these ideals that maybe are leading us down a wrong path or leading us down a path that makes me feel devalued, that makes me feel worthless. People want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and I'm like, oh no. Right? No, like we literally can't do that. We can't afford to do that. Sexual liberation absolutely was not a failure. Okay. And it's interesting because I don't think it's set in for so many young women in this country, especially post the reversal of Roe v. Wade, that Sexual liberation, right? The set of ideals encompasses so many things beyond posting who you're fucking on Instagram. It is inextricably linked to your ability to safely navigate the world. And a lot of this running toward neoconservatism is because women are looking for safety. Yep. We thought safety was going to be over here. It's not over there. And now we're going to go over here because we think safety is going to be over there. Nope. I get it, but nope. Social conservatism is fundamentally incompatible. Let's start it. Social conservatism is fundamentally incompatible with the safety and well-being of women. Clip it. That's the truth. Okay, the tricky thing about progress is that once the girls have lived in a world where we have experienced this progress for so long, it becomes normalized and we don't even recognize that, like, we had to fight to get there. Okay, so the problem is not sexual liberation, because we need sexual liberation in order to have a society that knows it is critical for all women to have access to safe legal abortion, to have access to free contraception. We actually need to have a political view that embraces the ideals of sexual liberation in order to dismantle rape culture. We have to have a society that embraces the ideals of sexual liberation in order to have a world that lets girls and femmes know that there is nothing nasty, dirty, shameful about your vulva. You don't have to whisper about it. Even, when I talked about my candida issue on here, people were like, that's disgusting, Kim. Huh? It happens. You got a vulva, things happen. But even living in a world where we can talk about reproductive justice, quote unquote, gynecological health. I was going to say feminine health, but that's not true. Gynecological health. Like, dismantling that shame, you cannot break that apart from all of the work that was done by the second wave feminists and the third wave feminists to get us to a world where, we don't have to secretly pass each other tampons in the bathroom. Sexual liberation is inextricably linked to reproductive justice. Sexual liberation is inextricably linked to the push toward the embrace of gynecological health. Point blank, period. Okay. But also, it's also important for us to embrace these ideals because do you want to live in a world where it's normal for 50% of women to not have orgasms when they have intercourse? Where that's not seen as a problem that deserves some intervention? Do you want to live in a world where we say to girls, look, masturbate. I'm trying not to be too vulgar because I want this video to remain monetized. But it's a good thing. It's a good thing that we are encouraging women and girls to say, hey, take a look down there. What feels good to you? What do you like? What don't you like? Let them know, or let them know, or let her know. I don't like that. So if we're saying sexual liberation wholesale was a failure, we're saying that none of that stuff is important. Yeah, critique the shallow shit. Critique the performative shit. Critique the sexual liberated woman cosplay that is so easy to put on, especially when you're young. But don't forget, it took a lot of work, organizing, right? I love what I do. I love this job. But this is just one piece of the puzzle. It took a lot for us to get here. Okay. Oh, the other thing is, I remember I was in some I do still be on Clubhouse sometimes. And I overheard somebody being like, be discreet. If you don't want people to shame you, then be fucking discreet. Like, be discretion. Nobody needs to know what your pussy is doing or whatever. And it's just, what's interesting to me, right, is like, we're definitely going to be living, in this post-world world that we are navigating in. Yeah, discretion is definitely going to be a thing. You know what I mean? Like, as people more and more are taking their abortion vacations, yeah, we're going to be real discreet about that. As people are, deleting their freaking period trackers so that they don't get arrested. Yeah. But that leads us to another thing about, how the Gen Xers who really ushered us into this current moment of sexual liberation, right? The kind of overt displays that have become so normalized, that have become the primary frame of sexual liberation that modern feminism embraces, how what they were actually reacting to was a culture of silence, a culture of shame. Yes, the Little Kim, Trina, Foxy Brown generation. Yeah, that, I used to be scared of the dick shit, right? Is a direct response to like living in a world where there was no space for fun, joy, pleasure with regard to your sexuality. And I think that if we're going to critique it, which I am, we cannot ignore that foundation. We can't ignore that history. Okay, let's move on. Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm. The problem I have here is that women and girls, even if they are legal adults, are performing sexual liberation before they acquire the tools to know how to make good, satisfying choices. Yeah. Yeah. We have to find a way to encourage girls and femmes, young women, to explore, know yourself, see what's down there, have a good time. And by the way, intercourse is not the only way to explore, as we all know. We have to continue to reject shame, but also say there are certain things when you do them, there are huge consequences. And so I don't want to tell you what to do, but be very aware of those huge consequences, potentially life-altering consequences. Ooh, man, sometimes I do get concerned. Oh, I maybe have touched on this before. Because we do not live in a world where feminism, sexual liberation, right? Like that is completely normalized. Because slut shaming is still a thing. I do sometimes see young women do things, and I'm like, oh, Auntie Kim wants you to think about your future. You know? Because, like, stigma is still real. But we can get into that later. I'm just saying. Okay. So we're here because Gen X feminists and Gen X Black women in particular said, fuck shame. We love them. We appreciate them. Oh, shout out to Gangsta Boo. Shout out to Lil Kim. I was literally, man, I've been playing Crush on You a lot recently. Shout out to, I've already shouted out Corinne Steffens, whom I just love so much. The Confessions of a Video Vixen era. Shout out to Joan Morgan, who wrote When Chicken Heads Come Home to Roost, right? Those 40-something, 50-something women did so much work architecting to say, we're not doing that shit. All right, we're going to take a break to look at some comments. The girls don't understand that we are in trouble and regressing quickly. I know the horrid stories of my older sisters, let alone my mother and grandmother. Okay. Protect yourself while doing it because diseases are real. It's weird how hypersexualized our society is, yet it's so puritanical. Yes, that is the fundamental conundrum of US culture. Yeah. Two more. Most states don't provide accurate, comprehensive sex education, and most states promote abstinence, consent, LGBTQ relationships, promote, right? Contraceptive can still care need to be included. Oh, most states promote abstinence. Sorry, I missed that little period. Consent, LGBTQ relationships, contraceptive, and reproductive health care need to be included. Um, Here to listen and learn, but my understanding is that true substantive agency is the key issue. I wish all those publications like the New York Times would talk to people like you before making those articles on sexual liberation. Quote, people are having less sex. Okay, let's get back to it. All right, so before I was talking about the Gen X Black women feminists who have been so critical, crucial in helping architect the current paradigm of sexual liberation that we see permeate, honestly, most modern feminist discourse. Shout out to Black women for being innovators. And I want to underscore that I am not saying that we should completely do away with everything that framework endorses. I think that we need to refine it. So, because I appreciate a lot of it, let's start with this article from Joan Morgan. All right, so this is Joan Morgan. She wrote the seminal book of what she coined hip hop feminism, When Chicken Heads Come Home to Roost. That was published in 1999. Basically, the ideas in there, first of all, I've cited this book so many times, but I think the reason why so many feminists my age and older are drawn to that book is because Joan articulates this idea that yes, I am a feminist. Yes, I believe in social, political, economic equality, but life is hard and it's complicated. And sometimes I like things that feel sexist. And, I still want to be with these niggas, right? And so, how can we articulate a worldview that says, yes, equality, important, but also I am a complex human being and I'm having all of these conflicting feelings, but I don't want to feel shame all the time? Yeah. Fundamentally, that's what that is about. In that book, a phrase that stands out to me is Jones saying, I fuck with the grays. It's not black or white. Yes, 100%. And after she was a journalist for many, many years, she decided to go back to school to pursue a PhD. She is now a doctor. And she then published this about the politics of pleasure with regard to Black women. Okay. I thought it was so important, right? Her coining of the idea of pleasure politics and encouraging us to think through, quote, what possibilities can a politics of pleasure offer for Black feminist futures? So yes, she is setting the agenda. Black women are trying to get free. We want to be able to play, have fun, speak, but we also want to be able to have a sexuality that is not hyper policed, that belongs to us, that uniquely stems from the peculiar history of Black women in the West. Yeah, we still need that. We still need that. We get to pussy politics because Gen Xers were fucking tired. Okay, let's go here. I don't want us to be quiet about our desires. We shouldn't be. And shame, I know. There's the other thing I keep hearing people say, bring shame back. Why do I keep hearing y'all say, bring shame back? No. No. Where do you think that that's going to get us? Anyways, yes. Continued rejection of shame and an understanding of the activist history that got us here. And also a rejection of the idea that the primary narratives about Black women's sex lives should be those that center trauma. Yeah, that's a thing. Man, when I was coming up, right, I grew up in an evangelical Christian household, and the sex teaching that I got at church, at school, at home was, if you do this, you're gonna be taken advantage of, and it's gonna hurt, and you're gonna get fucking blue waffle. Oh my God, I remembered I did this senior year of high school. I did this, AKA sponsored pageant. Let's not talk about the class shit right now. We don't have time. But they had their own little mini sexuality presentation, and it was primarily pictures of STDs. That was their sex education class that they wanted to present to a group of 17 and 18-year-old girls. Look at this picture of a disfigured vagina. And it's like, hey, wait a second. So yeah, underscoring that sex is fun, sex is good, being sexy is good, it's fun. Being desired by somebody who desires you and wants to treat you right, great. It's a good time. But there's stuff that we need to be thinking about as we pursue that. Okay, more comments. Oh, by the way, y'all don't Google that. Don't Google blue waffle, okay? Look at all these bumps and inflammation. Yes, that was it. That was the sex ed. I went to Catholic middle school, and I have a distinct memory of people preaching against abortion. Oh my God, growing up in Oklahoma and Texas, yeah, very anti-abortion. In my city, the dang mayor is now trying not to resign after he said he would because he was having a prolonged affair with a former staffer of his. He needs to be publicly shamed. Okay. I remember when my friend in middle school came out as gay and her parents showed her straight porn to fix her. Pure abuse. Shame is not constructive on the topic of sex. Also, we're grown now and we understand that shame is not the deterrent. If you're concerned about young people or anyone engaging in quote unquote risky behaviors, shame is not the deterrent. Because I grew up in red states, had abstinence only sex education, saw the pictures of the blue waffles, okay? Still had sex in high school. Still. Because my body was calling, right? That's it. You're not really going to be able to shame people out of doing one of the most natural human things. What you can shame them into is not taking the steps to protect themselves via contraception. You can shame them into getting into dangerous situations and being too ashamed to seek out help. All right. Next. Okay. So yes, it is so good that we are no longer centering. I have this outline and, I just go off, Like, I just go off, but the outline is suggested. Okay, the praxis. The theory is great. The writing is great. The scholarship is great. But the praxis is what got us fucked up. Okay? The template is just not working. I also wanted to bring up. Okay. So when I was looking through the literature, the scholarly articles about Black women and sexuality, there's just not a lot of in-depth work about how Black female adolescents come into their sexualities and their feelings around it. What I did find is this article from Thorpe et al. From 2021. It's titled Black Female Adolescence, Sexuality, Pleasure, Expectancies, Sexual Guilt, and Age of Sexual Debut. And I found it to be really, really interesting just from a data perspective. So basically what Thorpe et al. Did was they examined survey data from a set of Black girls starting in the mid-90s, and they tracked those girls as they became women, and they talked to them last in the 2010s. And the participants now are in their 40s, right? They're Gen Xers for sure. And the conclusion of that analysis was that generation in particular needed to be really intentional about combating guilt. They needed to be intentional about combating the idea that low expectations for sexual pleasure are normal. And they needed to be combating the idea that shame works. And ultimately, what we need to do is adjust our sexual education to accommodate the experiences of Black girls and women, meaning the way that we are hypersexualized, the way that we are hypervisible, the way that to this day, not the AirPod continuing to come out, to this day, because Black women in particular are among the most religious groups in the United States, that is going to be linked to a particular kind of sexual shame. We have to be creating resources, institutions, curriculums to help girls make good choices. And by the way, a good choice. Oh, I want to underscore this because I don't want to be misconstrued. A good choice is not always abstinence. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that the only good choice for young women is to not have sex. I don't believe that. I had sex when I was 17. I'm good with that. Right? Like, it was after I'd already been accepted to college. You know what I mean? My homework was getting done. I was winning awards. Wasn't doing drugs. Just, fornicating. I'm good with that. I don't regret who I was sleeping with, right? Like, that was a good choice. Waiting to that time, and I was at an age where I could say, I need to be on birth control or we have to use right? I felt good. I was in love with the person I had sex with for the first, right? I think it's possible. But like, a lot of stuff had to come together for me to get to a place where I could make a quote unquote good choice. Now, was I having good sex when I was 17? I mean, no. But I was having orgasms. Oh, there's gonna be no ads on this freaking video. But I'm just being honest, right? Like, I was getting off. But the 17-year-old boys, right? And that's the other thing, right? I also was not sleeping with like a 30-year-old. I can look back and be like, good introduction. We have to create strategies, institutions, frameworks for everybody to be able to make those good choices for when they feel like they're ready. Okay. Whew. All right. So what we have now is young women, particularly young women of color, Black women dressing up in liberated woman cosplay. And And while we are no longer living in the era where silence is the norm, where nobody can ever talk about being aroused or talk about their vulvas, we are now hopefully emerging from an era where the women who said, oh, let's go all the way to the other end of the spectrum are coming out with a different set of scars. Okay. So we need to encourage people to know and love themselves before they are jumping into the deep end of the pool. Unfortunately, those of us who are now elders, a lot of us don't have the ability to teach knowing and loving. We don't have the ability to be competent guides for young people about knowing and loving themselves because we don't know and love ourselves. And so we're all, trying to do that work at the same time. And it's a big clusterfuck. Okay. As I mentioned, most of us got the bare minimum of real guidance. And so we see, that awkward phase, the girls are just winging it. You know what I mean? And yes, when you're a young person, a young woman coming into your sexuality and wanting to explore and being excited and being in love for the first time, you're going to wing it. You don't know what you're doing, right? You can't shame people for not knowing. But we can certainly say, hey, put some floaties on before you jump into the deep end of the pool. Yeah. And also embrace the idea that knowing and loving yourself, coming into yourself, knowing what gets you off is a journey. I feel real, I said I wasn't going to talk about my sex life in public, my current sex life in public anymore, so I'm not, but I'll say. I feel really good about the choices that I'm making. I know what I like. I know what I don't like. I know how to vet sex partners. But that comes with age. It comes with experience. It comes from listening to other women, watching other people make shitty choices. It does take time. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking, how can I say that without shaming? Like, I want to be honest about that and not shame people who are in the middle of the process and getting it wrong. Okay. We're still figuring it out, right? So no, let's encourage joy, fun, pleasure, and play because that's how you get to a healthy sexuality. But again, because we are still living in a patriarchy, that so many of us are still navigating all kinds of attachment issues, mommy issues, daddy issues, body dysmorphia. Just telling women, telling girls at the nascent part of their sexuality, just do it, is so irresponsible. No, that's not good advice. Don't just do it. Okay. And then, as I mentioned in that, WAP and the Spectacle of Sexual Liberation video, it's not just that we have all of these, cultural blocks, societal blocks, internalized misogyny and body dysmorphia and all of that. It's also that even if you have all of that stuff figured out, even if you have a perfect relationship to your body, even if you know exactly what you like and don't like, because we are all still subject to the coercive whims of white supremacist capitalist patriarchy, that stuff can still push us to stuff that is not satisfying, that is not pleasurable. And it's easy to get caught up in the cycle of performing pleasure, right? Like building a platform off of making things look fun and sexy and pleasurable, but going home at the end of the day being like, oh, that was just work. Watch that video. Okay. And by the way, I also want to underscore that, when I'm talking about the current cultural norms that push girls to dive into the deep end with regard to their sexuality, it is not single gender. That's not a single gender issue. Yeah, it is absolutely a thing with boys too. It's just that that's been a thing with Black boys in particular for longer. And frankly, fewer Black men question it. I think it's really unfortunate that so few Black men earnestly question the hypersexualization of Black boys. Because one, it's a big problem for them. Oh, one day we are going to talk about how that early hypersexualization leads to Black boys and Black men having a completely dysfunctional relationship to sex and power and domination. One day we will talk about that. But because these young girls who are coming into their sexuality, young women who are coming into their sexualities are often engaging with these boys where it's normalized, again, catastrophe. Anyways, shout out to the men who are trying to do that work and say Black boys and Black men don't have to find value through their dicks. Shout out to y'all. Okay, let's look at the comments again. Work. Ooh, yes. It does remind me of the conversation that is creeping up on Twitter, on TikTok about how tween and young teenage girls no longer have representation that is directed specifically toward them. I am a Brandy stan because I loved Moesha. And Moesha, well, I'm a Brandy stan for so many reasons. Shout out to Never Say Never. But, if you grew up watching Moesha was flawed. You know what I mean? Kind of a brat. But she certainly was not hypersexualized. She had boyfriends and snuck out and all that, right? But it wasn't so centered on fucking. You know what I mean? It wasn't at all. Do 14-year-old girls have that? Do 14-year-old Black girls have that? You know what I mean? Is it easy for them to get on Instagram or to get on YouTube and watch a TV show or a movie where it's not that? Yeah. I think that's a problem for sure. Okay. As a Gen Z, the dating pool motivated me to be celibate. Fair. My mom took the tell me everything about sex when I was 15, and I didn't have sex until I was 21. So there's that. That's one thing I'm glad about, that my sexual experiences were done with folks in my age range instead of old creeps, for sure. Yeah. Okay, last one. Sister, that's so Raven, one-on-one. We are missing so much Black adolescent stories in media, for sure. Okay, yeah. And I think that that's really important. Okay, and also, I wonder if that also motivates the Gen Z obsession with nostalgia. Let's table that. Because that's interesting to me now. Okay, guidance, winging it. The point. Ooh. Okay. The need for updated frameworks. Okay, so last year I read an interview that Joan Morgan, again author of When Chicken Heads Come Home to Roost, published in 1999, coined the term hip hop feminist, now a doctor who coined the term pleasure politics. She did an interview with Chloe, formerly known as Chloe Bailey. And I cringed reading that interview because I felt like it was so the frame that Dr. Morgan, and I say this with all due respect, I felt like the frame that she was using to analyze what Chloe was doing before this new stuff came out, which I actually like, it was so antiquated and not connected to contemporary culture. Okay, so viewing what Chloe used to be doing with the treat me and the have mercy and, the booty shots, viewing that through the 90s lens of transgression is wrong. I feel so weird about, critiquing elders like that, but it's wrong. I'm sorry, it is. It's obsolete. What Chloe was doing is not pushing boundaries. It wasn't transgressive. It wasn't even particularly interesting. It was exactly in line with the status quo of what Black women entertainers are expected to do in order to get on. And if you are doing a write-up about contemporary Black women's culture, and you are not understanding that performance of hypersexuality, quote unquote, is the norm, is the expectation, you're gonna get it wrong. And you're gonna get it wrong because a lot of scholarship actually trails popular culture by years, many years, a decade even. But we, as older women, and Dr. Morgan is in her 50s. Am I an older woman? I'm older than Chloe. I'm a decade older than her. We cannot map our cultural contexts onto them. We're not living in the same world. We didn't come up in the same way. Okay. What else? Ooh. Oh, no, I'm not going to say that line. Sorry. That's too disrespectful. Okay. So that takes us to another dimension that is a big reason why I think a lot of younger women are turning away from the most popular modes of sexual liberation, like images. And they are recognizing more and more that women my age and older linked desirability to their sexual liberation. And that was a mistake. Because for so much of Black women's history, we were told to be ashamed and be covered and don't try to be sexy. And, I grew up in church, so it's like, don't cause your brother to stumble. You know what I mean? Wear a slip. So, yeah. Having, men look at you, gawk at you, want you, desire you, comment, the fires under your pictures. A lot of us is like, yes, this is good. This feels great. This is, right? That felt like freedom. But then, how long has Instagram been around? A decade? Instagram got popping in 2010, 2011? Okay, 13 years after the integration of Instagram into the social media landscape, it's like, oh, actually, that shit is meaningless. It can be fun. Oh, baby, 33-year-old Kimberly is gonna give you a classy, sexy look. You know what I mean? Classy. But that is not getting me to freedom. It doesn't matter how many quote unquote high value men are liking Brittany Renner's booty pics. That's not going to get her to freedom. It doesn't matter if Mandii, who before she had her weight loss surgery, was just, a light-skinned, very sexually adventurous sex worker, and that drew lots of men to her, that was not going to be her pathway to freedom. And so now we can look back and be like, oh, we thought it was, but it wasn't. Yeah. What we are seeing and embracing more and more is it does not matter how desirable you are. It does not matter how many men want to fuck you, how many men are in your DMs, how many men are trying to take you on dates. That does not necessarily mean you're going to have a healthy, fulfilling sex life filled with partners who care about you. No one gets a free ride in patriarchy. Not even the most beautiful women. Not even the most desirable women. Not even the women with the tiniest waists and the biggest booties. In our interpersonal relationships, in our sexual relationships, in our romantic relationships, nobody gets spared if somebody has a desire to be violent to you. There's no 100% absolute guarantees. No shields. Okay. Oh. So, we grew up in an era that taught us that being desirable was going to be the key to unlocking absolute freedom in the sexual realm. Not so. But also, the idea that just pursuing desirability is going to magically unlock a world filled with great, happy, healthy, emotionally available men not going to fuck you and mistreat you. Not so. But that has led so many people to nip, tuck, enhance, filter, shape, dress, in order to get better outcomes. That's not how you get better outcomes. Ooh, and this is a new addition to my outline, but did y'all watch the interview that JT of the City Girls did with Angie Martinez? I thought it was so good. And first of all, shout out to JT. Look, the celebrities run away from interviews because they're scared to talk. But that interview with JT and Angie Martinez, I'm officially recommending it to you. But it really showed the power of a good interview and a good interviewer. But anyways, JT actually articulated this belief that so many of us embraced coming up about beauty and desirability being the key to not experiencing any hardship. Let's watch it.
Like growing up, I used to think pretty faces don't go through anything. I used to think if you pretty, you're not going through nothing. Like,
And she's so pretty.
yeah, she's so beautiful. So I'm like, if you pretty, you won't go through nothing.
That
so
is
it's like the goal is to be pretty, so I won't have to go through nothing. But
How'd that work out? How'd that work out for you? You're very pretty.
It's a scam.
It's a lie.
You get pretty, then you want to get prettier. You get sexy, you want to get sexier. Like, it's just like, no. Like, I feel like women, as a woman, especially in today's age, like, we see so much on Instagram. We see so much on Twitter. We see so many different body type, faces, hair, and all of that. And we like, today I'm going to look like this, and tomorrow I'm going to look like that. And then, like, one comment can throw off your whole day or, like, anything. So, just like today's age, it's so hard to pinpoint who you are. And if you find out who you are, it's so important to...
Oh, I had to share that. I had to add that to the outline when I saw that because, yes, 30-year-old JT, again, back to women in their 30s having these epiphanies. That's 30-year-old JT, who we all know has had some things done. Looks great. Had some things done. For me, the key is you think becoming desirable, becoming beautiful means that all your troubles go away. Nope. You become desirable, you just want to be more desirable. You get sexy, you just want to be sexier. You become beautiful, you just want to get more beautiful. Or you want to claw and fight and scratch to sustain that beauty. Ooh, there's another video in here about my relationship to Botox and fillers and how I have stopped. But I don't have time for that today. But I'll come back to it, right? Because I realized once you're on the treadmill, it's hard to get off the treadmill. But I'm off the treadmill. Okay, let's take a bit of a detour. Okay, with regard to the desirability, doesn't get you anything but like more likes. It gets you more eyeballs. So I did that, off the cuff, kind of cheeky little video responding to Brittany Renner sitting in her car telling us what we all need to do to find a man. And there is a man on here who is obsessed with me, who has made many videos about me, long videos. And by the way, don't say the name, because if you say the name, it's going to be filtered out. His name is muted. Okay. And I watched one of his really long videos about me commenting on Brittany and the way that she is really now taking the manosphere turn, the red pill turn, and misleading young women in a different way. And he and his partner sat there for hours talking about how I am just jealous of Brittany and how, I am just so upset because I am not getting the kind of men that Brittany gets. And, I want those men, and I'm never going to be as sexy or desirable as her. And, look at Brittany and look at Kimberly. Meanwhile, the woman who was sitting up there talking that shit looks way more like me than Brittany. But I've already told y'all about how people do that to me. I've already told y'all about people who feel like they are one step above me on the beauty hierarchy, think it's just so fucking funny to try to call me ugly or whatever. And it's like, ma'am, we could have been on the same plantation. Okay, sorry. Focus, Kimberly. But I was so struck by them trying to weaponize Brittany's desirability against me, saying, nah, boo-boo, she's going to get stuff that you're not going to get. Because I'm like, but she has already told us repeatedly that with that desirable body and beautiful face and 3A hair, what she got was men who sought her out to use her and abuse her. Why would grown-ass, happy-ass, stable-ass Kimberly be jealous of a woman who said that she spent her 20s getting mistreated, emotionally neglected, had a baby with a man who really only halfway claimed a baby and will dog you out at any given opportunity? Why would grown-ass Kimberly, again, the value of getting older and gaining perspective. Because I am completely disabused of the notion that I need to be or look like or show up as anything else to get what I want in my life. To get the love that I desire, to get the intimacy that I desire, the support, the care, the partnership. Because I know the physical, yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing, right? Sexual attraction is a thing. But if you are showing up in the most beautiful, sexually desirable body with low self-esteem, with a lack of understanding about the importance of pleasure, with an inability to know that you have agency over your body and your choices, that you should be empowered to speak up, then what do you get? Nothing that anybody should envy. Anyways, let's take a little break again. Are you being, I assume you're being tongue-in-cheek because she got picked? Don't nobody want a field hand when they can get a high yellow gal? Here's the thing, right? Brittany got picked by the lowest of the... I don't want to center this on dragging Brittany. I don't. But certainly in 2023, we understand that getting picked by men with no character, no morals, no emotional intelligence, men who are only interested in violence and domination, that's not an achievement. And getting that type of man is not hard. Those type of men exist in every income bracket. Those type of men exist with no degrees. They exist with PhDs. They exist as plumbers. They exist as doctors. Okay? So yeah, you can get picked by one of those. That is nothing to envy. Ooh, I'm really in my Auntie Kim bag. Am I being a Yanla right now? Because I just have to say to you guys, you do not. I think the thing that I find to be so frustrating about this whole rebrand with Brittany is, what I know for sure is, you do not have to cater to the whims of the lowest loneliness, most maladjusted, most bitter, angry, potentially violent men in order to find a partner who will love you and care for you and check up on you and make you feel safe and loved. You do not have to participate in the race to the bottom to get the outcome that you desire. Oh, I'm in my preaching bag. I know. But I know that for sure. That all of this content that is trying to coerce us into participating in the race to the bottom, it's easy for me to block that out because I know what I have. I'm grateful for what I have. I know what I've experienced. I know what I've seen. I know myself. Anyways, I can't really go off on that. Okay. Right. And these men are bragging about not spending money too. So what's the point? If you can't get paid for the pain, why are you there? Right. Yeah. Imagine sitting in front of a microphone, musty and all, saying you're just jealous for an hour. You have to be mentally stunted. You really speaking to my teenage self. The little girl inside of me said, ooh, yes, yes. Uh-huh. The pickings are slim and loneliness is a real thing. Yeah, it is a real thing. Mm-hmm. Okay. Especially if you are only, man, Baby, I'm never beating the misandry allegations. But yes, especially if you're only dating black men, because we know that black men have too much power in the dating and marriage market. We do. I'm never beating the she hates black men allegations. I'm sorry. It is what it is. The numbers don't lie. We have the analysis. Okay. Whew. Okay, so anyways. I said all that to say, right? That when I say that none of that stuff moves me because Brittany and I are not playing the same game, that the pick-me's and I are not playing the same game, I mean it. I'm not participating in a race to the bottom. No. I'm very happily partnered. I, love and appreciate my partner. But my happiness, my feelings of self-worth, the joy that I feel every day in waking up and being able to live this life, I had that before he showed up. And he enhances it for sure. Yeah. You shouldn't be partnered with somebody who doesn't make it better. But if he leaves, I'll still have it. If I leave, I'll still have it. Because that's decades of work. Whew. All right. Okay. Because I was particularly compelled by an idea that Joan Morgan put forth in that article about the politics of pleasure. She talked about the importance of exploring Black female interiority. I was like, oh crap, we need to talk more about how can we get in touch with our interiority, meaning our thoughts, our feelings, our moods, what drives us, what repels us, right? Like we need a framework that is that. And because I was looking for that framework, I came across an idea called intimate justice. If he hears this, baby, he in the next room. He's hearing it. Shout out to my nigga though. Okay. Let's get to intimate justice. Where? Oh, there he goes. All right, I came across this idea of intimate justice first theorized by Sarah McClelland in 2010. Intimate justice's focus is not just about participation in sex or the representation of sex acts or sexual activity. Intimate justice prioritizes feelings of satisfaction after the sex act. Satisfaction, McClelland theorized, is the delta or the gulf between expectation and outcome. And again, when we see so many women looking back on the way that they feel misused in their intimate relationships, their sexual relationships, it is because they expected great and got not great. And so what do we need to do to make sure that our expectations are met? And of course, there's no guarantees, you know what I mean? People are people, bodies are bodies. You can't really predict the future. But what do we need to be considering to make sure that there's a reasonable expectation of pleasure whenever we are choosing to engage in displaying our sexualities, participating in sex act, or I don't know, like just being sexy? Okay. So I loved this article. I highly, if you are into reading scholarship, highly recommend you reading Sarah McClelland from 2010. We have to teach girls to expect pleasure. That we are not just performing confidence, that we are not just performing empowerment, that empowerment comes from knowing what you desire and having the ability to pursue those desires and hopefully acquire that stuff, right? And if there's a point when you realize that, oh, I'm not going to be able to get the thing that I desire, say, oh, this isn't for me. Oh, I'm not doing that again. Delete, block. Or the other thing is, look, I've also gone years without having sex. That was my sexual desire. I don't want to fuck with any of these niggas. Years. And that time was also valuable. Though the period in my 20s when I was still going on dates, you know, texting, flirting, sexting, whatever, but I wasn't sexually active, was also valuable. A learning period, your growth, you get to reflect and have experiences. Oh, and maybe by sexually active, I mean I wasn't having intercourse. Because maybe I was doing some other stuff. Anyways. But I don't regret that time either. Right? Like empowerment, liberation is also potentially about saying, oh, I need to take a break. This ain't working out. Or I don't have time because I was using that time to focus on building my career. Okay, let's not get too explicit. Let's not. Okay. We need pleasure-informed representations of sexuality, pleasure-informed sex education, pleasure-informed discussions about what our desires are, what our needs and wants are, what our kinks are, for sure. Those conversations have to be incredibly thorough because as much as we want women to feel absolute agency in saying, I like this, I don't like this, what we also see in the shallow sex positivity is an attempt to invert the relationship between sex and power, right? So that women say, fuck you, nigga, like, I don't want shit from you, nigga, get on your, right? Like, you know, like, right? Like, lick my cooch. That's not in a, I'm trying not to be so vulgar, but you know what I mean? Like, where it becomes all about women trying to take on the role of dominator. Women trying to say, I don't have feelings, you know? Just make me come, Nick, right? And look, that can be a good time. That can't get, but we're multifaceted beings. I don't want to participate in any bioessentialism, this idea, you know, that women, we only can have sex if we're emotionally attached and if it's, you know, everything is right and it's moonlight and roses. Nope. No, I've had, you know, some good sexual experiences that were not that. Okay. But because we are humans, you can do the get up after you make me come nigga stuff, but also the desire for intimacy, connection, real partnership, mutuality. That stuff is natural and normal. And the attempts to invert the relationship of sexual power is, from what I often see, sometimes, not every single time, but often, an attempt to evade and avoid the kind of vulnerability that comes with saying, oh, I actually sometimes do want to be held. I do want to feel safe in my sexual relationships. Even if I'm having casual sex, I want my partner to care about how I feel afterwards. Yeah, that's vulnerability that comes with that kind of honesty. And a lot of us have learned that that vulnerability is either impossible or it makes you so unsafe that it's not even worth pursuing. But it's not wrong to want that. There's no shame. Look, sometimes I'm a my neck, my back girl, you know what I mean? Sometimes I'm a, Rock It by Beyonce girl. Sometimes I'm an All the Man That I Need by Whitney Houston girl, you know what I mean? I'm all of those girls. Depends on the day. And I want to have the ability, because I'm not asexual, to be all those girls. Okay. Self-actualization with regard to my sexuality requires me having the space and the partner that allows me to be all of those girls. And it's really unfortunate that that kind of multiplicity, that it's not respected. It's not nurtured. It's not cared for. Not because we don't want it to be, just because, as y'all said, the pickings are slim. Okay. Back to the comments. I think that there are so many men preying on vulnerability and looking to exploit it as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Women's rights and women's wrongs. It's not wrong, and it doesn't make you, quote, too much or too needy. Oh no. My bad. Wasn't on freaking do not disturb. Okay. Yes. So let's talk about the casual sex thing. Because that is also a way to shame women, of saying, of course you are going to be treated like shit if you're having sex with somebody you're not in a romantic relationship with. What? No, that should not be the expectation. That is often the reality, but that should not be the standard that we settle for, that just because you are sleeping with, engaging with, talking to somebody that you are not officially committed to, that they have carte blanche to treat you like crap, to treat you like you're disposable. Not a thing. So yes, it is totally reasonable to expect that whoever you are spending time with, that they are invested in creating an environment of safety and care. But again, right, when we're talking about women and femmes who desire to have sexual relationships with men, that's not stuff that we can do on our own. And that's like the real sad part. Whew. Okay. One more. No human being should be treated as disposable, no matter the context. Like that argument, that doesn't make sense. Yeah. Yeah, the more open and accessible language and learning becomes, the more people will learn how to exploit vulnerability. The quote, good guy gets like superpowers, basically sad times. Oh, I've said this. I have said before, I've talked about, the feminist men who weaponize the language of progressivism to be manipulative. I have talked about this. That's another tangent that we don't have time to go on. I have to get through my notes. I was not expecting us to be doing this for this long, you guys, but I just have a lot to say. Okay. So, a follow up to the idea that it is natural and normal for humans to desire connection and intimacy is when I was watching that interview with JT. Of course, JT, one half of the City Girls. And by the way, the cultural importance and impact of the City Girls in 2023 literally cannot be overstated. But JT, an original City Girl, and when I said, ooh, bitch, this reminds me of, when I said over on the other channel that, City Girls feminism is embarrassing because I do find it to be embarrassing and ultimately unhelpful. Again, people were like, well, it's just that's not your lived experience and whatever. And I'm like, I'm talking about outcomes. And when the originators of those ideas and ideals are saying, ooh, I actually like these ideals of purely transactional sex, right? That stuff is actually not getting me the outcome that I desire. I do think it should motivate us to rethink. So I thought that JT talking about the kind of relationship that she desires to have with Uzi was really instructive here. Let us watch her.
But in the future, I always want to be his 50-50. Rather have people paint it as I'm a city girl and all that.
Okay. Well, that was the first technical difficulty of the night, okay? But anyways, that was JT. Watch the interview. JT, when talking about Uzi, saying that she does not want people to think that her relationship with Uzi is primarily one founded in extraction. That she does not like that when people are talking about her years-long romantic partnership, that they look at her as the one who is feeding off of him. That she actually desires a partnership that is fundamentally rooted in mutuality. That she, city girl, number one city girl, or number two. Is JT one or two? Maybe Carisha's one. I would say Carisha's number one. Number two city girl saying, oh, I actually want to be 50-50. Because that is the kind of partnership that I feel like would be the most fulfilling for me at this point in my life. Oh, that's interesting, JT. Because in the music. Now, that's fundamentally like my problem, with some of this. The critique that I have, of course, is that it is so common because that is what is most profitable for these, women, female performers, particularly in rap music, to say, fuck you, nigga, I don't have feelings. Get on your knees, paper my shit, where the cash at? And then be, snuggled up. You know what I mean? Okay, yes, your pussy can talk, English, Spanish, and French, and it can take dollars, euros, and yen, and you can be snuggled up. But it is nice and I think helpful for us to also hear about these women's what happens when they're off stage, what happens when they're not in the recording booth. Because, that's where the real humanity kicks in and not the profit motive. All right. That's that on that. Oh, what do I have here? Intimacy requires vulnerability. Yeah. That's how we get to intimate justice. I have that it's important for women in our 30s, women who came of age after the pornification of US popular culture took root, women who are my age, who were in elementary school or middle school sneaking and watching BET Uncut, to say, I'm not trying to ruin your fun. I'm not saying this because I'm jealous. I'm not jealous of the 50-year-old men who want to fuck 19-year-olds. I promise you I'm not. I'm not jealous of the 19-year-old for getting preyed upon. I promise you I'm not. Because I've been there, okay? And I do believe that girls are players too, you know what I mean? But erect some guardrails. It's a process, it's a journey, and many of us don't even really get deep into that journey until late 20s, early 30s. Again, don't want to, I'm trying not to talk too much about my current life, but it's good. It's good. Look, sex when you know yourself, when you know what you like, when you know what you don't, when you know I need to get in this position, it's good. All right. Also, I was talking to my aunt a couple weeks ago and she was like, I've been watching your videos. And I'm like, oh, yikes. Fucking yikes. Okay. Anyways, I am grateful that I didn't get really, really serious about my sex life until I was late 20s, early 30s. I think I was so focused again on goal setting and, working and figuring my life shit out that, yeah, I will say I torpedoed some good relationships during that time because I just was so singularly focused on getting the other pillars of my life right. But now that I feel like those pillars of my life are right, including my relationship to my body, tackling the body dysmorphia stuff, tackling the disordered eating, tackling the evangelical shame, that has set me up to be, at this point, a grown-ass lady who has the best sex and best sexual partner. Unabashedly. Yeah. And I feel really grateful and maybe lucky that I don't have an experience of ever having sex with somebody who made me feel like trash. I've had sex with some trifling niggas, but that's different, right? That's a different thing. That's, niggas gon' nig. But I never knowingly or afterwards felt used or felt regret. Yeah. And a part of that, to be honest with you, I'm not saying do what I do because I've still gotten into some sticky situations. But I'm just saying, like, if I'm being honest, I think a part of that was that sexual pause in my 20s. And I don't know, just being real singularly focused on winning. And something I internalized early was it's real hard to win when you're focused on making men happy. It just is. It is. I'm sorry. I don't know. Y'all can disagree. Finally, I know my mental and emotional composition well enough to know that there are certain sexual behaviors that I cannot engage in. So even, last year I was dating a lot after I broke up with my boyfriend. And I knew during that period that even though I was going on a lot of dates and, engaging with a few people, that I could not just haphazardly have lots of casual sex because sex makes me like men I hate. Right? Like, you go on a date with somebody and you're like, oh, this man is boring. He dresses bad. You know what I mean? Like, oh, he don't read. And then you have sex and you're like, well, maybe it's okay he hasn't read a book since 2012. That's my testimony, right? Like, it does change things for me. To go from, oh, please stop texting me. And then you have sex and you're like driving past his house, allegedly. That's my makeup. And so being older and really diving into the deep end as a more mature woman helps me know, oh, you can't do that. Yeah, but that's experience. It's time and it's experience. What do I finally want to say? I want to say, right, I understand where the young women are coming from, and I even understand where Brittany is coming from. There are so many incentives outside of the financial incentives for her to make the conservative turn. Because we're all fed all of this messaging about only, the good girls win, and you have to do this to be a wife, and you have to do this, and yeah. I've been saying a lot, privately, like, you can't beat socialization. You can, but you have to be actively engaged in combating socialization. And you have to be rooted in communities that are also invested in the project of combating socialization. And if you don't have that stuff, it's easy to become a Brittany. Yeah. And think that being good, doing the right thing, saying the right thing is going to get you the protection that being bad didn't offer you. But the good girl, bad girl dichotomy is fundamentally flawed. Even if you are, mixed race, bi-race, whatever, you still don't really get to tap into it at will. At this point, there is nothing Brittany can do to ever not be scolded, scorned, laughed at for being a single mother, for being damaged goods or whatever. So it's like, instead of, spending the rest of your years trying to pay penance to prove yourself worthy of being wifed, just do what the fuck you want. Pursue real freedom. And so, yeah, it's probably too late for her, but I will say to the Gen Z girls, to the, Gen Alpha girls coming up, my nieces are 10, they're Gen Alpha, that pleasure is important, but pleasure is also insatiable. Man, I got that from Cornell West, right? That the way to navigate a healthy pursuit of pleasure is by first deeply investing in a thirst for knowledge and understanding of self, of the world, of the people that you choose to engage with, being open to hearing, women my age, talk about things, review things. And, knowing what your boundaries are and what they're not. But I promise you, modesty culture ain't gonna get you there. Traditional wife culture, that trad wife shit ain't gonna get us there. Even this forced, emphasis on abstinence and celibacy. Do what you gotta do. But denying your desires is also not gonna get you there, right? It has to be holistic. It has to be measured. It has to be balanced. But that all comes with time. Let's review some more comments, and then I have to get the fuck out of here. I've been on here for 2 hours? Crazy. These are the conversations we should be having with our daughters, sons, nieces, nephews, and nibblings for sure. I am so happy I realized this very thing at 24, 25. I can't say I wasn't wild in my early 20s, but the outcome could have been bad for me if I didn't wake up. To say a woman is damaged, are men implying that they are destructive? Man, okay. Not all of these tangents, but like, there is this thing that I just keep coming across where everybody knows a woman who is quote unquote damaged. Everybody knows a quote unquote woman who is traumatized, but none of these men are the traumatizers. Everybody knows a woman who has been abused or emotionally neglected, but somehow none of these men are abusers. That the argument is that we are all being abused and neglected and mistreated and lied to by the same 5 men. Every Black woman in America. It's our fault that we have these experiences because we are all pursuing the same 10 men. Despite our class status, despite our education level, despite our geographic location, despite our religious affiliations, because we are all pursuing the same 10 men. Because none of these men are participating in this behavior. Weird. It's fucking weird. Okay. All right, you guys. Do you ever think about having deep convos like these when your nieces get older? Do you see yourself giving them slices of her Harriet in the future, or do you live with them? Oh, yeah. I 100% see us having these kinds of conversations. Yeah. No, it's not live and let live. I think that that's dangerous. I'm in grad school for my master's in reproductive science and medicine. I'm also currently working on a high school reproductive health curriculum, and I've considered so many of these points. That's amazing. Okay. That's it, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. We settled in. We got through the many points that I've literally been thinking about for literally a year. That's why I have screenshots from a year ago because, that's how this stuff gets made bit by bit. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment down below, hit me up on Instagram or Twitter. Join the Patreon. Shout out to the patrons, shout out to the members, sign up for the Substack. I will see you next time. Bye.